Welcome back to another installment of the After Dark 3x3 review, where I give you my brutally honest and entirely subjective opinion on games that probably don't need a review in the first place, but we're going to do it anyway. Last week I played a game set in a post-apocalyptic decimated London called Beyond Hanwell. Today, in true Trilogy After Dark fashion, I'm going to give you 3 things I loved about it, 3 things I hate about it, and 3 utterly terrifying and ridiculous moments in the game. So without further ado, let's get into it. I can honestly say that I wasn't expecting much from this game, and that's probably why it's been desktop squatting for the last 6 months, but this is actually one of 2 games that was up for review, and the latter was a total suckfest that I couldn't even make it halfway through without wanting to puke my guts out. So, here we are. To my surprise, Beyond Hanwell is a refreshing reprieve from a long line of games that, in my humble opinion, didn't deserve half of my hard-earned dollars, let alone the Steam sale price I bought them for. And right now, it's 70% off, dude. Check that out. I was starting to feel kind of hopeless and almost switched back to going for long walks or bird watching as a form of physical activity in my spare time, which definitely would have marked the beginning of the end for this channel.
He's a peeping Tom.
But alas, the indie horror godmother decided to bless me with a gem here, so nice. I'm fired up to talk about it already, and the first thing I can't stop raving about is the atmosphere of this little diamond in the rough. Beyond Hanwell is set in a bleak and abandoned Westminster, London that's been taken over by dangerous and unpredictable creatures that seem to have been created through some twisted lab experiments directed by a menacing and mysterious character known only as
the Doctor.
Well, won't it be nice to have a doctor in the neighborhood?
And man, is he just splendid. In my playthrough, my early game experience was pretty impressive. The graphics were astounding, from the reflections and detailed textures all the way to the realism of the weather effects and smoke and rain. Lighting played a huge part in this game, as with a lot of these titles, and the lack of lighting or the decisions made in the scarcity or feeling of dread that comes with not being able to see 3 feet in front of you when all you can hear is blood-curdling screams or low-rolling guttural growling all around you made for some really nail-biting intense moments that seem to drag on through the entirety of the game. Dude, we're running out of flashlight battery quick. What is that? The amount of time where I actually felt I could breathe in Hanwell was few and far between, and the overall vibe of the game felt like a heavy presence looming over my shoulder for the majority of my time with it. I felt really immersed for the most part, but as with most of these AA creature features, there was some jank that kept me from being fully engaged. But I have more to say about that later. For now, I want to talk about some good jank in the gameplay that I found satisfying, and gave this game a bit of extra indie charm in my opinion. Some folks might not feel this way, and I get that too, but in my experience, I love a good old Duke Nukem kick or an extremely over-the-top ragdoll physics implementation at the right time. That's right, dude, just kicking doors right open, huh? I like feeling as though I'm smashing through the digital world I'm inhabiting. Sprinting into locked doors will kick them open. How do we sprint? Yes. Even if it looks a bit cringy to some folks, I think it gives these games character, and although it's not always meant to be comical, the fact that it can be is a welcome reprieve from some overly pretentious take myself too seriously non-stop gore fest. This game could have easily been that without that balance, so it's a huge win in my book, and it never really became too much to handle. There were some issues with the controls and times some jankiness that I'd like to have seen polished up a bit, but all things considered, I had a fun time with it, and it helped me to maintain my sanity while I progressed to the next story segment. Okay, these ladies are pissed off. Do not switch when glass is unshaded. What's that mean? Chose not to read the sign. Oh, the story in Beyond Hanwell was also pretty decent. I enjoyed the way it was delved out to me in transcripts and emails and voice recorders left littered about the world, minus the overly distorted audio quality of said voice recorders.
We perform for the ghosts of the artistry past. For the echoes of applause that once filled these walls.
You start to piece together a bit of what's happening with the government chain of command and how this moment in the story played out before you arrive. It sets the tone for a pretty investigative Resident Evil type vibe where you kind of see a glimpse of what's been happening, and it leaves you to imagine the possibility of what you're about to encounter around the next corner. This game is also the third installment of a series, and I never felt as though I had to find out what happened in the previous games to understand who the main character was and what the mission was here, so I'm pretty excited to say that you don't need to worry if you haven't played Welcome to Hanwell or the Council of Hanwell to understand what's going on in Beyond Hanwell. But understanding isn't always everything, and to say there are things I didn't like about the way the writing went down as a whole would be an understatement.
I've never even been to Mount Vesuvius.
Cool story, Hansel.
As it was kind of a predictable story, and nothing too noteworthy or revealing happened. Spoiler alert, there really isn't enough story here to spoil. Nothing really happened the entire playthrough that I couldn't already figure out based on the information I was given from the very beginning, so it did end on kind of a flat note. There was a part of the game you go through that reveals just how sick and depraved the higher-ups were and some of the things that were happening in these government meeting places, but I'll leave that alone because it was probably the creepiest thing about the game's story, and you should play through it yourself if you really want to see it. There was also a point where I thought I had beat the final bad guy, only to find out that there was a badder bad guy than the bad guy I was trying to get to by beating 4 other underboss bad guys. Oh man, this is really going to be a thing, isn't it? I don't know. I just kind of loved the idea of the story, but then I hated the overall execution. There could have been more here that maybe I missed out on, but I really don't think so. I played this game for a good 6 hours, if not more, and most people beat it in 4.5 hours. In my experience, it wasn't for lack of trying. There were entire parts of this game that really just sucked. And not because of a puzzle or lack of hand-holding, it was just downright stupid positioning of a lever to open a door or a hidden padlock, some of which you can shoot with your pistol and some you can't. Or just a general lack of direction to the next objective, which should be there to make exploration a welcome necessity, but instead it left me running around the same small room, scouring walls and doors and trying to Skyrim over shit like an idiot.
Maybe we could just Skyrim over this thing.
What am I missing? It's gotta be something real obvious, right? Yeah, we're just trapped in here forever, I suppose, right? I'm having a hard time with this one, dude, and I don't like it.
6 months later.
Okay. Alright, they got me, dude. You know, really not a big deal, but over and over again, overwhelmingly frustrated enough to just give up at times. Look, this game isn't Breath of the Wild. It's a linear story set in an almost open area. It's not open world. It's like 4 city blocks, and they aren't jam-packed full of unlocked areas. Outside of the main points of interest, the rest of London felt like AI-generated slop. Well, we found us an invisible table. First one in the game. We also found us a porch with windows. A couple of those. Possibly some AI-generated stuff going on here. Who really knows, though? Windows were set in places doors should have been, and entire sections look copy-pasted and repetitive. There's also a human enemy faction in this game. Yeah. And the only reason I know that is because of notes that say there is, and graffiti painted in blood on the walls. Most notable here is ATF. They are strong and numerous, and often spliced with anomalous DNA. So we're dealing with the ATF. ATF. Accept the future. Outside of that, I never encountered more than one member of this human element that could have been really awesome to fill out some of the empty-feeling streets of London. Enemy monsters spawned out of nowhere in the middle of the streets, and it felt fake and arcadey in comparison to the rest of the game. I feel like if there were some bad guys out in the world, it could have made so much sense, and the use of weapons and crafting could have put this game on another level. Outside of every creature feeling spongy and tanked out to the max, there was no reason to worry about crafting a weapon or ammo because weapons and ammo were laying around everywhere. I say, up the enemy count in the streets, crank down the tankiness on just the human enemies, and let the players scavenge the dead for resources and build and craft supplies. It was an entire missed opportunity that would have at least kept me playing long after the stale storyline and frustrating ending. Another frustrating thing about Beyond Hanwell was the shitty audio.
Our show is a beacon.
No!
A clue
God!
to those who once loved this place.
No! God, please, no!
Are
No!
its heart.
No!
It's
No!
Man, those stupid tape recorders were a literal pain to listen to. The accents I get, but there were certain tonal frequencies that hit parts of my eardrum that almost broke my brain.
We shall see the dawn of a
Man, this guy's
new
annoying,
era.
right? My wife, who doesn't play video games, watched my Twitch VOD back the other day and told me she couldn't understand anything that was being said on those tapes. Certain sounds were extremely louder than others and just blown out completely. Reverb could be heard decaying long after a gunshot. And sounded fake and tinny and not tuned in right. Last thing on my list has to be the control scheme. It's trash. I'm not going to really go hard on this because control schemes can be changed and overall controller logic is kind of subjective, but seriously, the way running and crouching and turning quickly is handled kind of forces you into this inverted routine that is just too confusing. And this game just isn't game of the year type good enough to deal with that. It's not a cute way to make me struggle or feel powerless against enemies, it just sucks and it's frustrating. But the good news is that, on sale at least, it doesn't have to be game of the year. Full price, this is not that banger. On a Steam sale, it's a gem for sure. What I will say is that I definitely think it has charm and promise, but it could definitely use some polish. Well, that's about all I got to say about Beyond Hanwell, and I hope that somebody out there found this review helpful in some way. Let me know in the comments how you felt about the game if you already had a go at it. Also, stay tuned if you want to see 3 clips that made me want to pull the blankets over my head and hide like a small defenseless creature being hunted down by a vicious salivating lion in the Serengeti. For now, I got stuff to do. So, yeah. Yeah, he's got no eyes, right? He doesn't have any eyes. He can only hear us. Alright, cool. Okay. Oh, he's gonna get us, dude! Oh, dude, he knows where we are. Oh, there's a bunch of them, dude. Oh, we're stuck. Same thing with you, right? You're not gonna be able to grab us here, right? Right? Right, you ain't gonna pop out and grab us. You definitely don't want to touch your little biological goo mess right there. Okay. Okay. What is going on? Dude, there's gotta be a way I can destroy these guys.